is actually the fourth Tuesday of the month.
Fourth Tuesday.
24th.
Okay, we are recording and live streaming
And-
when you are ready, Mr.
And my clock says 11 o'clock, even though it doesn't agree with the one on the wall. This is the official one. We'll call the Isabella County Board of Commissioners Finance Administration Committee meeting to order. In the terms of the approval of the agenda, are there any additions to the agenda or any changes?
No, for me, sir.
All right, we'll move ahead with this agenda then. Next is call to the public. Director, treasurer.
Come right up.
Everybody's here with an agenda. No. Well, I know Karen's on. I don't know if Karen usually wants to say anything now. Maybe she'll say something later, but
Registered Deeds Jackson, we have Director Shoemaker and David Marr from Spicer
okay.
online, but I don't see any hands at this time.
So we'll move on. Then there'll be another opportunity for the public to make comment. Our first item is consider approving the volunteer agreement between Nicholas Fiber and Isabella County to set the parameters of his involvement in all aspects of the renovation of the Isabella County Administration Building and authorize the board chair to sign the same. I know, just to open up, I spoke to Mike spoke to me, and knowing that we're going to lose our illustrious and hardworking county administrator controller, leaves us at a time that we'll have some big projects. And Mike said he'd step up and do more to help coordinate this for the county board. So that's what this is. And I see you've got an agreement. I'm sure it's gone through legal counsel.
Sir, it has.
Did you want to add anything to it?
I think just that, I say he's proven his value and his worth, but it's kind of a joke because he's done this volunteer and pro bono, but he really, he's had a long career in construction, engineering, and I can't say enough about the authenticity he brings to the table. I suppose that is the word I would use, and he's he doesn't mind if he ruins our mood with what he has to say. He's very professional, he's very polite, but he'll say the tough thing that sometimes as owner you don't want to hear, and that's exactly what we need from an owner's rep on these projects. We just don't maintain this level of expertise on staff at the county, so we have to go outside to get it. And in this case, we're lucky that an Isabella County resident has these capabilities that they're willing to volunteer.
Yeah.
He's been a tremendous asset on the correctional facility project, and I don't doubt he'll continue to do so on the
Yeah.
county administration building renovation project.
To add on to that, obviously with losing Madam Administrator, having Mr. Ferber here is going to be critical. He has some very real insights into large construction projects that none of us, I've been involved in restaurant construction, but nothing to the full extent of what we're doing here. And obviously we don't have everybody on staff who has that insight into building projects of this nature. So I think it's going to be very good and very beneficial to us as a board and to our taxpayers that we have Mr. Ferber on board. So full agreement.
And as I attended the OAC meeting, Mike is often there and brings his insight to the table, and he does it in a very professional manner. There's nobody that gets stung with anything, and I think he's just a very positive person, and he's really an asset to this county.
Very much so.
As he was in the building that we sit in
Without a doubt.
in 0708 when this was built. Mhm.
Any other comments or questions?
None for me, sir.
Would you like to move this?
Sure. Make the motion to move consideration for approving the volunteer agreement between Nicholas Ferber and Isabella County to set the parameters of his involvement in all aspects of the renovation of the Isabella County Administration Building to our work session next Tuesday night.
I will second that motion. It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign. It moves forward. The next item, consider approving the work directive change orders 1 and 2 with Spicer Group in the net additional amount of $73,500 and authorize the board chair to sign the same.
Okay, so continuing with county administration building renovation project, we've already entered an agreement with Spicer Group for architectural and engineering, design and design construction documents and construction administration. We are looking at 2 change orders for that contract, and architect David Marr is on the Zoom, so he is, remember, he's who we've been working with
Right.
on preliminary design. So he has presented 2 change orders to the county. The first one, change order number 1, is in the amount of $13,000. Some of the work that we had Spicer do was analyze in the beginning. We've got this building, does renovating it make sense? Does buying a new building make sense? Does building a new building make sense? What makes sense? And so Spicer Group did, at our direction, do some analysis preliminarily on whether new construction of a much smaller square footage made sense versus renovating the existing building. So $3,000 of the change order is for that analysis. $10,000 of change order 1 is to right size the square footage of the building. When I released the RFP, I'm gonna be for architectural and engineering services on the county administration building, I used the net square footage that I'm familiar with using in the calculations for indirect costs. I didn't think about net square footage. Those indirect cost square footages are all about office space. They're not about common spaces. So the square footage that we advertised was around 27,000, 28,000 square feet. As you know, when we first started to meet with Spicer, they had really quickly identified this is about a 46,000 square foot building. All spaces, common hallways, bathrooms, meeting room, all of this, right? So right out of the gate, we need a change order to right size the square footage of the building. That adds that adds an additional $10,000 for the additional effort. Spicer did not believe it was almost a doubling of square footage. They didn't believe a doubling of their fee was in order. So that's change order number 1. Change order number 2 comes to us from utilizing additional space in our existing facilities. So as we work through the 3 floors of the county administration building, we're working really hard to keep it to 2 floors because this concept of white boxing a whole floor, just bringing it up to code, and not doing the expensive finishes, can really save us a lot of money. So the existing facility to the east of our county administration building is our current sheriff's office and correctional facility, which sheriff will be vacating with his guests sometime after the first of the year, by next spring. So that will become available square footage to us. As we know, that building could no longer serve as our correctional facility, with certain parts of it going back to the 50s for original construction. But the west side of that building, being the closest to the county administration building, was built in the 80s. And there's some real value to about 10,000-ish square footage on that west side. So in order to analyze that square footage, to do a preliminary design of that, takes Spicer Engineering to do that, and it's not part of their original scope of work, right? When we originally hired them, it was for the square footage that we're now updating on the county admin building. So in order to ask Spicer to increase their scope of work, we need a change order. So this would be to take a look at the existing sheriff's office and correctional facility, analyze that square footage. It'd be preliminary design documents, producing the actual construction documents, and then also construction administration at the time. So that totals in change order number 2 to 60,500. The bulk of that, of course, is preparation of the actual construction documents. Now, if they dig into that and find it not feasible, there won't be the construction documents, but the thought is right now that that's good and usable space to tie into the existing facility.
Okay. You know, I've gone to some town halls and, you know, I've heard the criticism that we should have just continued operating with the knowledge of the asbestos in the building, which, you know, you can expect that coming from people that don't have that background information and certainly don't have the risk assessment that would entail. You know, we need to reoccupy our building and we need to do it in a smart way. None of us have that type of experience to be able to go in and analyze the building, analyze its structure, analyze its square foot, try to coordinate that with all of the elected officials and department heads. I would say that Spicer Group has done an excellent job. As for the use of the county, current county correctional facility, I know there's been talk about a child correctional facility. I never thought that was feasible, only because we probably are looking at some asbestos issues in that older part of the building. But we've had some new construction, and the thought was that we've heard from, especially our elected officials, they need to have some type of storage that is fireproof. And no better place to put it than in that western portion of the current facility and make a connectivity. Now, I think the other thing we're looking at over there is putting in our facilities maintenance area. We're looking at a portion that maybe will accommodate the Department of Corrections facility. And I think it just makes good sense. We spend the money up front to make the good decisions, the right decisions, and proceed with that. It's unfortunate that we had the wrong square footage, you know, we're new, kind of new on that too. So this will correct that and we'll continue to move forward.
Chairman, I know we had Mr. Muir, right? Is on the
David
line.
Marr is on.
David Marr?
Yes.
I do have a question for David if he's able to
Berger's
answer.
joined us now as well.
All right. So if David's on, I do have a question for him.
I'm here.
Hey, David, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Question for you, sir. I know you and I walked through the current sheriff's office and we looked at the different sections of that building. I believe we had discussed this idea of kind of walling off the old section from the newer section that we're going to use in order to encapsulate any potential asbestos issues that are in the old section. Is that still true?
Yes. So there's currently a 2-hour fire separation between the new section and the old section. We would maintain that. We would add a couple doors because there are or wall it off completely, just depending. In the future, you could add the doors if you needed to expand into that space once the asbestos was taken care of. But yeah, we would follow that 2-hour rated wall all the way through the building, and then essentially splitting the building into 2 separate spaces.
Very good. And the reason I ask is obviously we went to this great extreme to protect not only the employees that work for Isabella County, but the people that utilize the current administration building. And I think it's important that we assure all of the people who are going to be utilizing the old sheriff's office that we are going to maintain that level of care to make sure that they're not exposed to any kind of asbestos if there is any in the old building. So thank you for that, sir.
I will add one other thing to that. So we would also be looking at mechanical systems, air handling, heating and cooling that would be brand new and only for and include the new area, not, so you wouldn't have any cross contamination of air from the old building to the new.
Correct. Thank you for reminding me of that. Yes, sir.
I guess I have one follow-up question with that then. I know we've had problems with the sewage system. The clay tiles that were original, had been breaking down, and I think we did 2 sections of it. The third section, my understanding is that it goes under the floor of some of the cell block areas. Is that something that would be included in this project to correct that? I mean, if we don't, I know we're looking at Department of Corrections, so they're gonna need toilet facilities.
Yes.
Uh,
Yeah, the code, as soon as we put offices there, we'll have to do that ancillary services, right? They'll have to have those facilities. David, I don't know if you know enough about the workings of it yet to know, like HVAC, is it gonna be, new that services that, or if they'll be existing that you can tie into?
Yeah, so the HVAC will be new. That's the heating, venting, and cooling. But the plumbing system, we're not aware of that yet. I mean, we've heard some discussions about it, but we haven't dug deep into how that would be addressed. Design wise, that would be included in our in that additional change order. But as far as construction wise, obviously we've not considered for that, and of course we haven't considered construction costs very much, other than some ballpark ideas. So
You gotta design it first.
pardon me.
You've got to design it first.
Exactly, right. So we've given some ballpark ideas of what that cost those costs would be, but we have not looked into how that existing older system is functioning. That will be part of our preliminary design.
Perfect time to ask.
Okay. Well, then the only other thing is we have budgeted monies to pay off an $11 million construction tab for this work over a 30-year period. However, it still is up in the air. We got to get the design work done, and then we need to go out on bid, and we may be surprised by the cost of the project and might have to modify it in some way, but I think we need to continue to proceed with this, and this will get the change orders, get the corrections needed in the cost for doing the professional work. I will move the consideration of approving the work directive change orders 1 and 2 with Spicer Group in the net additional amount of $73,500 for the work section next Tuesday. It's been moved and supported motions are moved and supported. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Even with the increase, still within industry standard, for Spicer's fee, based on the overall construction project. And
Yep.
that was something I didn't know, but our illustrious volunteer, Mr. Ferber, was able to teach me. Thank you.
So nobody's taking advantage of our mistake.
Correct.
We
Correct.
thank Spicer Group for that.
We do.
Thank you, Mr. Ferber.
Hearing no further discussion, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. It moves forward. Number 6, consider approving prime contract change order number 26 with Clark Construction in the net amount of $35,011 and authorize the board chairperson to sign the same. Heidi, good morning.
Good morning.
Oh, she's in jail.
I'm sorry.
Tell by the background, you're in jail.
Not literally.
Take us,
We have, go ahead, I'm sorry.
go ahead. Sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead. And
No,
take
we have moved over into the training room in the building. The trailer has been removed and When you come out on Thursday's meeting, you'll see the site fence around the parking lot that where our trailer was is up and the fabric is on and the landscaping is starting and irrigation's going on and there's a lot of exterior changes. So big difference when you come out on Thursday. But before you is a prime contractor change order number 26. We just have one item on this one here. That is for some master control changes that was requested by the sheriff to add some additional workstations for touchscreen, some monitors, a microphone, decoders. This is for the 2 master control rooms that he has, one on the first floor and one on the second floor. This also is removing some 3 55-inch video monitors from the scope as well. That cost for Pauley Jail is $22,202. We do have some work for the electrician for on the second floor when we were working with the Zybax desk and making sure we had power there. We had to change from floor boxes to poke throughs. That was due to the precast planks that we currently had in the project. And then reworking that and adding the monitor power request and also the 55-inch monitor power that was needed in that second floor control room. And that was an add of $12,809. So the total of this PCCO number 26 then is $35,011. We're about roughly 89% complete and remaining bio contingency, we're at 37%. Is there any questions on this one?
So some of the additional costs was already figured into the buyout. That's why we can go up, eliminate.
Yep.
So it's under 30,000 left in buyout and 89% complete. The project keeps moving on. I'm anxious to get out there Thursday to see
Yes.
how the ground is being developed. So we're getting close.
We are.
Are there questions or discussion?
No, sir, not this one.
Would you like to make that motion then?
I sure can. Oh, let's move to consider or take consideration for approving prime contract change order number 26 with Clark Construction in the net additional amount of $35,011 to our work session Tuesday night.
I will second that. Any further, it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. It does move forward. Thank you, Heidi.
Thank you.
We'll see you.
Number 7. Consider approving fiscal year 2024 budget amendment number 2024-08, fourth quarter budget adjustments for general fund and authorize the board chairperson to sign the same.
So like we generally do, we've got 2 budget amendments brought forward this time, one for general fund and then one for basically all other funds. So we do it this time of year because once September 30 comes, you cannot adjust your budget. Right? So this will be the last opportunity for the board, being the last board meeting of the year, to adjust. So thank you, Melissa, for getting those to us timely so we don't end the year upside down in the department. So a lot of these things for general fund offset, and so it's a net zero. So I'll go through and talk about the net zeros, and then we'll talk about the things that don't net out and that are adding up to an additional use of fund balance in this regard of $55,000. So this isn't saving, this is going the other way to end the year up. So the first thing is local revenue for early voting from the townships. Those agreements brought in revenue that was not budgeted for. So we're bringing in that full 35,000 as a revenue, and down below, you'll see an early voting expenditure for elections of 35,000. So that first off out of the gate, that offsets. The next one is state revenue for continuing professional education. This is for police training. And so you'll see that's an additional revenue of $11,000. And then down below in your 321 department, you see a total between those two lines of $11,000 expense. So that offsets as well. The next is revenue 2,700 for the marine safety sheriff's function. So that's revenue that comes in and a corresponding expenditure of 2,700 below for marine safety. So we are all offsetting the next large one, revenue from DTE for the solar special use permit and site plan review through community development. This is an escrow account that they set up. So down below, you'll see a corresponding expenditure. So again, money in, money out, no change over the net. The next thing in revenue is a decrease of fund balance in the amount of 55,000. So that's what's going to take to balance this out. So if we go down below, what makes that up? One of the things is, the first thing is $7,000 increase for dues and subscriptions in the Board of Commissioners. We just missed that at budget time. Dues for Michigan Association of Counties, and I think Township Association as well. So we're just making that right. Fear not. Something we, I think, identified during zero base. Those are built into, as you've instructed, the fiscal 25 budget. We just missed it this year.
Okay.
So building those in, the next is an offset. We're decreasing salaries and wages in admin. We've had lapsed wages with some vacancies, and we're moving that money still in administration, but over to attorney fees. We've had a few instances of late to reach out for legal opinion. So moving those, decreasing wages, increasing attorney fees. So again, that offsets. You see your early voting expenditures that we talked about. You see some things happening in facilities, a decrease in capital outlay because it's not being utilized of $55,500. And what that is moving into are those next two expense lines, 40,000 for snow removal and ground maintenance, and 15,500 for capital outlay at the court facility. That's a beautiful parking lot. You see that's been refinished to help save us money in the long run. So again, that nets out, right? We're decreasing some expenses and increasing in facility. So that nets out. The next increase is 10,000 to postage. That's part of the 55,000 expense for this budget amendment. That's not covered. That's just an additional expense. So it's something we're going to have to watch, especially going forward in the zero base. I doubt we have that 10,000. The next thing that's just a flat increase is appellate defender. This is our managed assigned counsel that is outside of the public defender's office, not the 75%, 25%, right? Where public defender handles 75% of the cases and the other 25 we send out to managed assigned counsel. That's not it. These are the cases that are abuse and neglect. These are the cases for juveniles that can't be handled yet by public defender. This is an amount we always have in the general fund. So this is, last couple of years we've been okay. This year it is taking more. So we are building in 25,000 to balance that out. That's a need.
And
We're
that
on the
in the zero base, it is increased.
Okay.
And this is the expenditure line that Court Administrator Curtis, now we receive, I believe, 50% in revenues that come back, and the revenues have already come back for this fiscal year.
Okay.
But these expenditures have gone up because they have increased some rates, I believe, fully of what they're paying the attorneys or per case, or don't quote me on that, but those rates have increased. So that's why we're seeing an increase for this fiscal year.
And I feel like we brought the revenue forward in a prior budget amendment.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah.
we did. But it doesn't offset, the expenditure. It's
Not a
50%, but it also wasn't 50% for the full fiscal year of 2024. So I think there's maybe only 15,000, I say only, but 15,000 of revenue that it doesn't cover the expenditure. So
It is accounted for in 2025 to a certain extent.
yes, I believe in 2025, we have maybe 90,000 built in for expenditures and 45,000 in revenue, half of what we're thinking we'll get back, but again, if that's, I think we accounted for the increase, or we have accounted for the increase in per contract or per case. But we might have to revisit that
At least,
if that changes again.
right, it might very well, but at least we're making inroads there. We're not gonna
Yeah.
come back next year with $100,000 change. Okay.
These are things we saw during the development of fiscal 25 budgets, part of why we're bringing them forward before the close out of the year. Yep, and we didn't stick our head in the sand, it's a known, so you gotta build it in. These next few expenditure lines you see, we've talked about, those police training lines are offset, marine safety is offset. The community development, ETE solar expense is offset. So the last two things are just the contractual services and remonumentation needs to be increased in the current budget by 10,000. And the books for the law library costs a little more than we budgeted, so we're sending an additional 3,000 from general fund out to the law library fund. You'll see that on the next page. How that connects. Any questions about general fund or what's driving this?
I know the register of deed gets money from the state for the remonumentation. And so this is not something that's gonna be offset with monies that are coming from the state, or?
No, it will. The way that she's come and explained, and maybe I know she's on, maybe she can explain it a little better, but the way that grant and reimbursement works, they're always 2 years behind. And so the revenues, we do recoup it all. She is very good at, she
Never in the
reports
current
everything,
year.
but it's always, it might be a little less 1 year, a little more 1 year, but we can't have that budget line at the end of that department, not even the budget line, but the department as a whole with more expenditures coming in would be in a deficit.
So the bottom line is, I know there's always a work plan for the year. The cost for that work plan just went up beyond what was originally projected or budgeted for.
It sounds like it. Register of Deeds Jackson is online. I don't know if she's unmuted, so maybe she can hop in and lend some
So
information.
what happens, Jerry, is the grant is year to year, January to December. And so we only get a small portion or 40% of the grant in the beginning. And we get 60% after we've expended 100%. And so what we try to do is not expend any more than what we have to in the beginning part of the grant in order to be able to have those funds there by the end of the year. In this case, the money is going toward, the majority of it is going towards the peer review group. Our peer review group is made up of retired surveyors who will be leaving October 1st. We're very fortunate that we get that group that will do the peer review for a very small amount with great experience, and they're from this area. And so because of that, we have to hold our peer review in September, which means that expense has to come out before we receive that bulk of money from our grant. At the end of December, we will have expended the full amount of the grant. We will get that money back, but in the state's wisdom, they don't give it back to us until like May of 2025. We will get the rest of 2024's money.
Right. Thank you, Karen.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
One final question. I know we'll be next Tuesday approving change order 1 and 2 for Spicer Group. Is that going to be paid this year? Do we need to do a budget amendment for that?
No, I believe in our,
Well, how do we, if Spicer sends us a bill and it's for September work?
At least, I'm sorry for butting in, at least part of it will have to be paid this year.
Our fiscal year.
And that's the 77,000, right?
Yeah, but so of the 77 preliminary, so probably the 13,000, well, the preliminary design documents for adding the correctional facility was only 3,500 of that. Construction documents 46,000, which they won't get to that part in September.
They probably will, Nicole. I think we're gonna get monthly bills for September, October, and November still this year, and the December bill will come probably in January.
So Melissa, if we get September bill for Spicer, we, you know, obviously it'll be within the 60 days after fiscal end. We'll push that back to current. Are you looking at other places in general fund?
I'm looking to see if we have enough budget in the line item for the closure. I think we've been putting all of the Spicer bills, everything that relates to rehab of the building to align in emergency management, so we can keep track of it all, which we do have the budget in there for, but looks like there's $263,000 left in that line. But I have to see what else
What
is
else is coming in? But we might be able to do
Just
it out of this
Quality's
year.
Quality has a,
They've got
Well,
theirs coming in.
Sounds like you're gonna be looking into it. If necessary,
change
we
before
can do an
Tuesday.
amended.
Yeah.
we'll do a
Budget
an
amendment.
amended.
Amended a budget amendment.
An amended, okay.
Yeah, we will look at that before Tuesday. Yeah, that beats the heck out of having a special meeting before the end of September.
Agreed.
Okay.
Yep.
I will move approving the fiscal year 2024 budget amendment number 2024-08, fourth quarter adjustments for general fund to the work session.
Or
It's been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion?
not for me.
Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. It moves forward. I don't know if I said aye on it, but I meant to.
You did.
Oh, okay.
I got you.
Consider approving the fiscal year 2024 budget amendment number 2024-09, which is the fourth quarter budget adjustment for other funds, and authorize the board chairperson to sign the same. So these are outside of the general fund.
Not a whole lot going on here. The first is that 3,000 that you saw an increased operating transfer out from general fund. Now this is that other fund receiving that additional revenue, right? So that extra 3,000 in revenue, and then we're building up the expenses by 3,000 as well to cover the cost of the books. The next fund involved is Fund 280. That's our tribal fund. So these are when we write grants for 2% funding, or our partners do, for the money that flows through the county, like say the conservation district comes under us, right? Or if any of our departments, we don't always know at budget time if that tribal 2% dollar is going to get spent. And so this is now we're working through the year. And so we build into that fund. We get the revenue at the time, we get the money at the time that they approve the 2% request, but we recognize it in the budget when we spend it, right? So this is just spending 150,000 of that already received grant dollars from the tribe. So you see revenue coming in of 150,000 and expenditures of 150,000.
Yes, we don't know at budget time. We can take a really good estimate, but we don't know at budget time until it's awarded what that amount is going to be, or what's going to be spent. We know if there's something already in there sitting there, if that's going to be spent, but not anything new that's coming through.
This new equipment is for emergency management.
So it'd be the AEDs.
Yep, it's AEDs, and I think there was a grant for like the active shooter, or maybe it's education shooter, and then maybe one more grant in emergency
Oh, so it's
management.
multiple.
Oh, yes,
Mhm.
yeah,
Oh, okay.
yep.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think the AED was in 3 rounds, 2 or 3.
Okay.
The last fund involved here is our delinquent tax revolving fund. So this is just increasing the expense in that fund by $17,800. And this is for archiving of the delinquent rolls, I believe. And there's certainly enough fund balance in there to cover that. So you see the revenue up top, 17,800 in the same amount, bringing that in. So pretty simple budget amendment for end of year for funds. Everything else is. Any questions?
Would you like to make the motion?
I sure can, sir. Oh,
Agree.
move to consider, or move to take consideration for approving the fiscal year 2024 budget amendment number 2024-09, fourth quarter budget adjustments for other funds to our work session Tuesday night.
I'll support that. Is there any further discussion? It's moved and supported to move that forward. Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. It moves forward. Discussion regarding the fiscal year 2025 proposed budget. Do we have more to add?
So I think just two, well, maybe more than 2. We're building in, obviously, the 3 months of gap funding, right? So Tuesday, we put that in the packet? Probably before, yeah, so on Friday.
Fridays,
Yeah,
yeah.
you'll see
And
it
it-
Friday's packet,
It'll still be the proposed budget.
because it's not adopted yet.
It'll still be the proposed with those changes.
So the 3 months of gap funding for assistant prosecuting attorney and remember the change to the District 4 Board of Commissioner salary.
Mhm.
So this is an interesting conversation. Originally, those out county commissioners had received a salary of $500 more a year, presumably for the extra mileage they travel into the county seat. When District 4 was redistricted to kind of bring in that district more, created your district out of one, it hadn't been. And then District number 4 came more into the city, that Union Township piece. And so it became, it was thought of the board, that's more of a townie, maybe not,
Out-of-county.
doesn't deserve that out of county extra $500. So we were going to take that out of the budget. We changed it in the budget resolution so that you're setting the salary for the next term for whoever is the District 4 commissioner next year. It'll be 7,000 instead of the 75. But we didn't change it in the fiscal 25 budget. We didn't reduce it by 500 because you have a current seated commissioner in that district and we cannot lower his salary during his term. It's a law. You can always increase an elected salary, but once they're in term, you cannot lower their salary. So we just left it alone in the budget. Next year, you'll do a budget amendment if you need to grab the remainder of that. Payroll will change the salary for that commissioner
1/1.
January 1.
I guess we could do 2/3 of $500 and take it out. Want to get in there and do it. I could either way.
It's Frank, I want.
I'm
I'm sorry.
I've been careful to leave names out of this. We all know who we're talking about. It's such a small thing, but I didn't want you to be looking for the $500 adjustment. There isn't one. For the gap funding though, we do need to have the conversation. That gap funding is for a currently ARPA funded position.
Right.
So the 30-ish thousand it's gonna take to fund that position for October, November, December, so that we keep that employee and they can move into a vacant position January 1. Do you want that to come out of your contingency? Or do you want that to be ARPA funded in this last? We've kind of floated ARPA funding around to the full board and it really didn't pick up speed. We've got most of our ARPA dollars now
So
towards the HVAC
it's
and the building.
designated, yeah. before I got it.
I'm thinking we need to obligate those funds.
We do.
And to me, I think take it out of the ARPA, leave the contingency alone at this point.
Yeah, I'm very leery of dipping into that contingency at any point. If there's another way, we should probably try to do that. So maybe we should have that conversation with the other commissioners again, kind of revisit that. I know we have designated, right, the money to the HVAC. How negatively does that impact?
30,000, that's a.
You can still think we can make it work?
scratch, Yeah,
Okay,
absolutely.
all right. I just don't want to adversely affect that.
We've been talking in pretty round numbers. When we talk about the county building renovation project, and we use big round numbers and we think of $1 million of ARPA, right, towards the HVAC. It's a little more than that, but 30,000 isn't gonna impact that budget.
You like that, that'll work then. And stay away from our contingency. Make sure we've still got it going into 2025. Just try to maintain it if we can.
Well, maybe a follow-up question with that. I know we have project or money out of the ARPA designated for certain projects. Big one is Parks and Recreation and the sewer improvements. And that has to be obligated by contract by the end of the year.
Yes, sir, by the end of the calendar year, which Director
And I-
Hanson is well aware of that, and she knows that in order to satisfy that obligation, we've got to have that formal agreement to spend it.
And we have some money with the treasurer's office for helping with tax issues.
Yes, we'll
So
need to.
when do we pull the trigger on that to know?
Well, I think if you're saying there might be leftovers from those, or I would suggest before your last board meeting of this year, right, we'll need to,
Revisit it.
yeah,
The calendar
absolutely.
year. you mean.
Yes,
Okay,
not
yes.
fiscal,
Yeah, the calendar year.
not this one, but yeah,
Maybe
we'll
November, before we get into December.
probably have a good conversation with the treasurer's office about likelihood of what they'll be looking at if they know, and
Yeah, let's do that.
And I don't know how you push along a big sewer project. It's an animal all its own. It has its own time frame, but
well,
my biggest
even
fear,
purchasing materials would be okay if you could seriously buy pipe,
I actually have an email drafted that hasn't been sent yet, but because I'm putting pieces together still, but I'm aware of the timeline crunch, I'm aware of what needs to happen. For Plan A, which is that the money continues to move toward the sewer project, or Plan B, which is that it gets rerouted to something else. I am at the mercy of not my conscious timeline, but I have. I mean, I feel as though I have the situation under control with the understanding that dollars need to be obligated. I also can't enter a contract without bringing it to the board first. So when I have more information, like I said, I've already been able to bring that to you. That's kind of where that project is at. Not really sure. As far as signing the funds to an agreement, part of the email that I have drafted is looking for some guidance on, can we enter an agreement with the township? Part of the issue with purchasing materials up front is that the design is available, but the contractor that we're using, I mean, this is a whole separate conversation.
It is.
Then I guess I'm bringing this up to let you know that it is very much at the top of my list.
Yep.
And I'm aware that just out for us, there are other areas.
Mr.
so
Chairman. Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I don't think I buy the materials directly. I think it's gotta come through the project. There's too many ifs, ands, or buts, and you're gonna be stuck with materials. I guess my fear, as former Parks and Recreation Director, and very much in support of this project, if the commission loses that because there can't be a contract, it's gonna go back into other uses of the county, and I'm not sure the county's gonna have the funds to replace it down the road, so
right,
that's my
that's
biggest
the
fear.
risk.
All right, Madam Director, do you have a plan for that? Plan B, if that were to happen?
Grant funding. The part of the problem is because the delays that are happening at the township level.
Exactly,
We have a cost estimate, we don't have. Here's the final.
right, you don't.
Site of that cost is gonna be, and as we know, with other projects that could change projects. Advances, but the thought process is seek additional grant funding, and there's a reality that at some point it may have to come out of fund balance. We should absorb that expense at this point, but again, these are a lot of questions that are up in the air.
So, Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
Madam Director, I would, given my understanding of that particular situation with that sewer project, I would strongly look into your Plan B option. I just don't feel like that project is gonna move along any faster than what it is right now. I don't see it coming to some kind of decision before the end of the year. So,
Well, I guess my question is, which again, I have communication drafted right now, but if we enter a contract with the township to commit us to the project, does that satisfy the ARPA obligation? That's a question there.
And that'd be a great question for Mr. Perone.
yes,
He should be able to answer that. I think that's a great, because if he says that'll satisfy that obligation, then
Because
let's
that
get that
again, we
that
have
drafted.
engineer design for our specific project, we have a process.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they must add towards our agreement. But I just need to know what satisfies our.
so again, thank you for that. That's great. You've done all you can. You're stuck where you are and you're at the mercy of the township and that process that they're going through. So I appreciate you doing what you've done. And I think your idea of getting that letter vetted through legal is a good idea. Get that worked out sooner than later, I would say.
Yeah, and that is not gonna happen. I mean, we've got a year. On this.
Well done, ma'am. All right. I like it.
Thank you.
And if he says yes, then say, please draft said
Yes.
contract.
Yes, and then, we also, I will look to get some guidance because not every township uses the same law firm that company does. They have a different attorney, but they use the same firm. I think there's paperwork that can.
If you just waive that conflict of interest.
But I will say, already had this discussion with staff. By no means under the impression that we need to just into that money. I mean, we want to have it for our project, but we're aware that the better outcome is that the county just has to sit in their home, so I just want to ensure that.
Thank you.
We know the time sensitivity and we know the importance of us being that one project or another.
We have a very capable Parks and Recreation Director staying on top of this
Thanks for
issue.
staying on top of it. Yep.
This does not require a motion. I don't know if there's any further discussion. Either from administration or from,
We do, we wanna, yes, one more thing, we kind of got off track there. Community development, inspections, GIS, zoning, you've updated your fees earlier this year.
Yeah.
And we need to build that updated, piece into the budget, so I think currently maybe it didn't have the applications with the fee schedule. So it's made your budget document a little longer and we didn't want you to go, why is there more in here? Some more updated, detailed
Detailed
fees
information.
from.
In the
Yes.
fee section
Yes.
only, not numbers or budget numbers, just those
Oh,
those fee
explanation.
schedules have a little more pages added to them.
It's not extra
Yeah.
holidays snuck in there.
Extra money.
Yeah, right.
so does the board need to adopt those fees separately?
Nope, it's all part of you adopting that budget and that's why they're in there is because it's part of that budget document that you adopt.
Yes, and those fees that Director Newport has updated, those came before the board back in May. So those are already something that are updated. We're just updating the document to reflect those from the last.
Okay,
budget.
well, thank you.
Board has previously approved all of those fees.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yes. You'll have two motions, I think, on the agenda. One will be the budget resolution itself, and then remember, we make the PA 152 resolution a part of that, but you'll adopt that separately. So we actually have two things on your agenda for that, which is good. And I just want to just mention future budget amendments. Hopefully Tuesday, you'll adopt the fiscal 25 budget. And probably one of the first meetings in October will amend that budget, right? And that's okay. The insurance committee met yesterday and we're gonna bring forward a recommendation to change that opting out from insurance, that in lieu payment we give to employees to opt out of insurance, hopefully enticing more to do so. So we'll be bringing that forward. If you approve that in the next round, there'll need to be a budget amendment to go with that, interestingly enough.
What was the dollar amount?
A spoiler alert, well, actually, I won't spoil that yet. I'll hold
Okay.
that because we didn't have we had about close to half of the members not in attendance yesterday at the insurance committee meeting.
Okay.
So we want to take their recommendation and throw it out to the rest of the insurance committee group, just to
Mhm.
make sure they're on
Some
board with
feedback.
that before we bring it forward to the board. So
Yeah, I don't want
I'm
Meddle
gonna
there.
spoil my spoiler
to,
alert.
sorry about that.
Just
Anything else?
fluidity of the budget was all I wanted to mention.
Any further discussion or questions
None for me, concerned.
from anybody?
Yes, if you don't mind, due to technical difficulties, I missed the first few minutes of the meeting.
You might want to go back and watch the recording, Mr. Ferber, because we can repeat all the nice things we said about you, but
Oh, I have to do that then.
I put you first and you missed it.
His head's already pretty big on the screen there. I don't know.
We're, we
I
are
just-
moving the agreement forward with many accolades to yourself.
Yes.
Oh, well, thank you, thank you. Although it only protects the county, but that's all right. I mean, I don't make a big deal out of it, but as long as things move smoothly, as I mentioned to Nicole on the jail project, I don't think I'd be able to participate in the claim, the potential claim against the designer next year because, if it goes to litigations, you know how attorneys are, and then they sue everybody and their grandmother, and I have no recourse then. So I just wanted to mention that to you.
Understood.
Mhm. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. But do go back and watch the recording. There were some really nice things said about you.
Well, thank you. I can use every bit of it, I think. I just wanted to apologize about missing the first few minutes.
We'll move on then to our invoice list
Thank you.
discussion. Our first invoice list is dated August the 30th.
I think David left the meeting.
What was he trying to leave?
If you hit, is there a red X in the lower right corner that? I'm the host, so mine says end, and I don't think yours is gonna say that. Is there a leave meeting?
It shows me there are only 4 participants.
I can kick you out, but I don't think you can ever get back in if I do that.
Say what? Oh, he said David. left.
Yes, David left the meeting. Yes, sorry. I thought you were trying to figure out how to leave the meeting. Thanks, Alexis.
So on the August 30th list, I didn't see anything that I questioned on the 5,000 plus bills or in the body of the bills.
Yeah, sure. Pretty straightforward.
Moving on then to the September 6th invoice list. Only thing I saw here is we have a payment going out to Advanced Benefit Solutions and Accusure, both for monthly international and 90-day prescriptions. I thought we had a contract with one. Why do we have two
That's,
listings?
they're going through their name change from 44 North right now.
Oh,
And so
okay.
that was previously 44 the North, and
Just
then
a
they
remedy.
went to Advanced Benefit Solutions temporarily while they had things figured out with, I don't know who that goes through with name changes, so on the invoice, they were having us remit to Advanced Benefit Solutions, Acrisure, and now finally it'll be Acrisure going forward, now that they have everything changed legally, names and tax IDs and whatever they have to do.
Okay,
So those are the same vendor. That's what I'm saying.
we have a couple of big costs, but one is Clark Construction and over 900,000 for the August construction costs for the correctional facility. Then we have the 2% grant going to Central Dispatch for the AED. That's like almost $80,000, $50 short. I don't have any questions about any of the balance.
First one,
Do you have a question?
not on this one.
Okay. All right, we'll move these on then to the work session.
Oh, I did have one quick question before you go. COA Pavilion Project, it says progress bill number 9. How close are we finishing
That's
up
the
with?
final one.
Okay.
It is the final.
That was what I said. I was gonna ask. That was my question. Thank you. Sorry.
Well, maybe one more question. In terms of the self-insured prescription, are we getting any benefit from being self-insured? Are we gonna exceed this year?
Sure,
or
last,
come under?
last I saw, well, at renewal, the renewal for them to cover was more than going self-insured, so, I mean, in that regard, we're continuing to recommend and go self-insured because it is working. I know we had the hiccup early on, that we followed suit with industry and elected not to cover certain drugs. And that's really kind of turned the tide on those costs.
Kept them more in line with what we expected. Okay.
All right.
Mhm.
The next item is announcements.
None from me, so.
The only announcement I would like to make is now it's no longer, it's public information that we're gonna lose our county administrator, controller at the end of the year. I just want to say that, I'm not saying I'm disappointed. I'm happy for you, but you've been a great county administrator and we're gonna miss you. And, thank you for your dedication. I know the stress in the job is just awful. And sometimes, I think in the past, I've made some mistakes and made that stress go up too. And one time got slapped back a little bit, but
Just one?
Just once? Oh.
I remember it.
Oh, memorable. Oh,
I'll probably make this announcement. I will make the announcement again at the meeting, but you're gonna be missed.
thank
I
you.
didn't want to say that.
I may add to that. In my 40 years in restaurants and operating restaurants, I worked with a lot of people in administrative positions, area supervisors and directors of operation. And man, I would have given anything to work with you. So I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, it's been great working with Nicole. Very good. I will miss you.
With that, we'll do a call to the public. Anybody online raising their hand?
There is not at this time, Mr. Chairman.
All right, then we'll call the meeting adjourned at, I'm not gonna use the one on the wall. Meeting adjourned at 12:03.
There we go.
Thank you.
Thank you.